There's a demon lurking in Tokyo. You know, I'm not quite sure what made me sign up for business school at 18 years old, almost damn near a decade ago now. I never liked math or money or like white people for that matter. Also, I give off clearly a Hufflepuff sociology major vibe as opposed to a Slytherin finance bro energy type of thing. I mean, obviously I know what put the thought on my head in the first place. My dad. I've definitely talked about my father here before on this channel, if only a little bit. My dad did the same, never came to my games, but he gave me a ring so I can't complain. But my dad is a brother, a provider, a burgeoning bike enthusiast, and most saliently to this video anyway, an accountant. Has been for the past 35 years. My dad and accountancy makes sense like French toast and waffles, like Israel and war crimes. My dad has always been the rock, the foundation of reason and logic in my family, and it's why he is such a good accountant and has been one for so long and occupies a high position because of it. It's what I love about my dad, but I'm not that nigga. To be honest, I was scarily similar to the characters in Ino Asano's Solanin. Not so much caught at a crossroads, but stuck in a current I didn't remember diving into. The 2-volume manga published from 2005 to 2006 in Shogakuken's weekly Young Sunday is a slow-moving manga about what 20-somethings do during that weird segment of semi-adulthood where life seems to stop moving altogether and yet your heart rate never seems to follow suit. You know, those good old post-grad years. It's a sticky manga. Sticky situations involving characters that stick in your mind long after you put down the manga's lightning quick 28 chapters, plus the epilogue that was released about 11 years ago. Through Solanin, Asano explores how Japanese youth grapple with two big questions. What is life? And how the fuck is everyone getting through it? I mean, the fact that the brain isn't even finished cooking until 25 years old for some of us, maybe? And yet they got us out here making canon event decisions as teen toddlers is truly wild. Unserious, psychotic, Dr. House, I think we got another case for you. That's Tayo. This is Color Mind, a place where I like to talk about things I've thought about, so maybe you can think about them too. I need to tell you about Solanin, because it's a story about you. Billy, or to be more precise, a man named Billy, or to be even more precise, a nigga named Yamada, is boring. An ordinary drugstore clerk working on an ordinary street. He lives with his parents, even more relatable for some of y'all, which, no shame, because once again, rent be too damn high. When we first meet him in chapter 5, MEIKO, the ostensibly main character of this story, asks Billy, "Are you happy right now?" And first off, what the absolute fuck, MEIKO? You can't just spring that shit on people, read the fucking room, or you're trying to give somebody a panic attack. Billy does eventually respond though with a follow-up question that kind of surprised me on first read. Aren't you supposed to find that out when you die? The way that we're taught to live our lives is to muscle through it. Be polite when you can, ashamed when you can't, and when you inevitably die from a stroke on the shitter at 55, God will give you your highlight reel, and from there you'll be able to form an opinion about the life you are no longer living. And what kind of fucked up deal is that, right? Why am I expected to be okay with that as an end goal? How am I supposed to move every day in the face of an unmoving, frigid universe with my sole respite, right? The thing that is supposed to keep me warm in my times of intense self-doubt and solitude is the opportunity to watch it all again at the end, but with director's commentary? Man, the fuck is Satan selling? I might be a free agent now. Anyway, when pressed further by MEIKO, Billy retreats from introspection and turns the question onto MEIKO instead, and eventually the topic is dropped entirely. To me, this is how a lot of your 20s feel, right? Alternate periods of one friend wanting to figure out their entire life and the other friend wanting to figure out how to tell the first friend how to shut the fuck up. Because on one hand, those conversations are important. We're talking about personal meaning and fulfillment here, and no man is an island, even though both are 70% water. But on the other, Ash and me, ain't nobody trying to talk about all that right now. Life is meaningless. They canceled Inside Job. Please let me escape into whatever marginal means of escapism I have left. No one wants to have a friend that talks about things they thought of. Nobody wants to think about them too. Meiko's words do weigh on Billy though, and you can see in how Asano draws the already hard lines of his face into a series of downwards, even more forlorn marks. Every frame speaks 1,000 different names, but it's safe to say that this is not the expression of someone excited for the prospect of the future. This is not the image of a young professional snapping at his chance to muddy his boots on the rungs of the corporate ladder. What I see instead codes as lamentation, a growing frustration not at the system, but his cowardice in the face of it. Kind of like how you're never mad at the savage capitalistic nature of your local Girl Scout troop, only your cowardice in the face of those fucking Thin Mints. Billy's fear is that he won't be special, that he'll grow up to be just another replaceable cog in the grand social experiment of Japan. He knows what he wants his future to be, a rock star, someone selling out shows and shuffling through condoms, Coke bottles, and models. But that sheer improbability compared to the stability of the daily grind doesn't make the former feel much like a future at all. What a suffocating feeling it is to sense a box closing on top of you when you've just felt a breeze across your arm. Meiko is an ordinary girl who feels stuck in life. She's the daughter of farmers from a small town outside of Tokyo, but she moved with her boyfriend to the big city in search of bigger, more exciting life. However, unlike the shonen you normies like to read, Meiko isn't a special person. Her life isn't this big adventure that she dreamed of. She's not super smart, she wasn't a gifted kid, she doesn't have any strong interests or special skills, she don't even got a fucking quirk.
Is it possible to become a hero even if I don't have a quirk?
No.
She's just an average person living an average life. She's a college grad living with a part-timer boyfriend, working a regular office job just like thousands of others drudging through the monotony of everyday work life. And yet, somehow, she feels her life should be more than that. The catalyst for Solanin is when Meiko decides that she wants to break from this routine. She doesn't really have a goal in mind or any plan to achieve it. All she knows is that this 9-to-5 shit is for the birds and it ain't for her, and she wants out. She yearns for freedom. She wants to break free from this modest, stable life and from the cage of adulthood where she just doesn't seem to fit, but lacks the confidence that she'll actually make it. Every day is a constant battle between her desires and her insecurities.
I'm starting to hear this dark whispering that says, if only you could jump the rail of life and become free. But sadly, I don't have that kind of courage, and I'm at an age that has me especially self-conscious about my lack of talents. Even though it's somewhat heartrending, in order to live modestly, I have to do my best.
But of course it's stupid to just quit your soul-draining job, especially when you're the breadwinner in the couple and your boyfriend is a slacker, just because you want to do something else with your life, and to do something else as frivolous as be happy. Who's out here doing that shit when we got bills to pay, groceries to buy, and rent to be extorted from us? Meiko is that part of you that wants to quit your 9-to-5 and devote yourself fully to your art. Become that streamer, that YouTuber, or finally get good at math because you're sure you're finally able to get that algebra problem that threw you for a loop in the 8th grade when they started fucking adding letters for some reason. It's the you that wants to pursue your passions but are held back by this fear of not knowing for sure if things will go well. What if I look dumb? What if people don't like me or what I do? What if I fail?
To discover oneself is to embrace what the psychologist Meg J calls the unthought known. Those things we know about ourselves but forgot somehow. These are the dreams we have lost sight of, or the truths we sense but don't say out loud. Deep down, underneath all the nagging voices of our parents and friends, we do have an idea of what we want. Contrary to the opinion of most 20-somethings, the issue here is not one of a lack of self-knowledge, it's a lack of knowledge. The terror of uncertainty isn't being uncertain of what we want, it's wanting something but not knowing how to get it. Working towards something without knowing it is a sure thing.
In your 20s, as you cross into adulthood, there's this mixture of anticipation and anxiety. In an instant, you feel like you have so much power and autonomy over your life and you want to embrace it. but at the same time you still feel a bit childish, and you know you aren't ready for all the seriousness and responsibility that ultimately comes with adulthood. You feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, which is both empowering and crushing, especially in the face of the uncertainty that is what the hell you're gonna eat for breakfast. So you become fearful, stagnant, safe. It's like, I can do anything I want, but why is everything I do wrong? MEIKO ultimately turns to TANEDA for advice. Her boyfriend, dazed and drunk off sleep, tells her if that's what she really wants, if that's what would make her happy, then she should make like a Nike and just do it. He reassures her that even if she looks like a fool through her clumsy attempts towards happiness, even if the path becomes dark and uncertain, even if she feels like she's at the end of her rope, he'll still be there right by her side. 500 boyfriend points to Gryffindor! Everything will work out somehow. He's sure of it. So MEIKO quits her job, and by chapter 2, she's embracing freedom. She's doing what she wants, when she wants, she's living her best life. And we love watching Stella get her groove back. But it becomes very obvious, very fast, that this girl has no fucking idea what she's doing out here. She's living her days aimlessly without any plan or purpose, and is in no rush to change that. MEIKO, think of what Beyonce said. She got the freedom she wanted. She can finally do the things she wanted to do, but she has nothing to do. She can't get started on anything. Nothing gives her purpose, and freedom without purpose tastes a lot like boredom. In the next chapter, MEIKO is still stuck when, lucky her mom comes into town. Because if there's one thing that makes adult life easier, it's having your parents stand by and witness you getting fucked by it. MEIKO confesses to her mom that yes, she quit her job, and yes, she has no plans right now, but she's working on one. Sort of. Which are the exact words that your mother wants to hear. Her mom reacts as most concerned and somewhat overbearing parents would by telling her to be reasonable and quit this dream she's trying to live and to come home. I feel like this is something a lot of people in their 20s have conflict with. You don't want some authority figure, especially your parents, to tell you that you're a kid and they never truly believed you were ready to make it out on your own. You may not be ready to be an adult, even if you don't want to give your folks the satisfaction of admitting it, but you're not some child anymore either. Sure, you may be immature sometimes, it may make bad decisions because you lack wisdom, it may not be ready to fully deal with responsibility, you may even be extremely forgetful at times, but fuck. What was I talking about again? Right, but I am not a child. You may not be a perfect adult, but that's okay. You're still an adult. You're still making your own decisions, you're still learning, and you'll figure it out some way. I trust it. By chapter 7, MEIKO is with her friend Aichan and they're having girl talk. Aichan is dating Kato, who sadly we won't be talking about much in this essay, and is basically your stable friend who gives you good advice that you know you should take, but not everyone is trying to live a completely healthy life, you know? During their conversation, Aichan tells MEIKO that TANEDA is too soft on her, and she's only cool with it because in return she just lets him sit back and act like a dumb teenager while they both waste their life away. She then wonders out loud if MEIKO only quit her job as a way to test TANEDA to see what he'll do and see if he'll actually step up for once. Which is a hell of a thing to say. As MEIKO walks home, she reflects on Aichan's words and admits she doesn't talk with TANEDA about the future because she fears it might destroy their relationship. In your 20s is the first time in your life where you really have to be accountable to yourself and others. Relationships and people get complex now as life gets more complex. People actually want and expect things from you, and you want the same. But sometimes neither of you know what you're looking for or how to ask for it. But you can't procrastinate in life, and you can't procrastinate in relationships. You can coast and have fun for a while, but eventually you have to assess where you want to go in both and actually be committed to doing the work to get there. You can't let the fear of change, the fear of failing, or the fear of an uncertain future stop you from progressing through life with a person. If you stop, nothing will change. Sure, things won't get worse, but they also won't get better.
And that's a rock fact.
Skip to chapter 12, we're about halfway through the manga, and MEIKO still hasn't done anything productive. MEIKO, I can be on that bullshit because I have ADHD, but I don't know what the fuck you doing out here. 3 months and nearly an empty bank account later, MEIKO is still stuck asking herself the same question since the beginning of the manga. What should I do with my life? I first met Taneda, I knew he was many things. He plays in his band Roti with his friends Billy and Kato. He's driven by a need to leave an impact on the world, especially through the power of music. He's a sad soy boy with a guitar and existential guilt, most likely to play Wonderwall at an open mic night and get depressed no one came up to him afterwards. He's just like me for real though. I cut him some slack. He's obviously going through it right now. Visibly shaken by the news that his girlfriend of 6 years, MEIKO, has quit her job, Taneda is beginning to have serious doubts about their future. Her decision is basically halving their already meager shared income, and all seemingly on a whim. Taneda's vision for music is strong, sure, but it's not going to pay any bills in the immediate future, and where you're living in a dream, anything that suddenly rocks the boat will result in a stay in bed. I hope you got what that meant, because I'm not sure. I'm just a beta test for ChatGPT's next update feature, darker mode. What I'm saying is, MEIKO's rush decision clashes with Taneda's self-image as a young rebel by forcing him to really consider the precarity of their situation. You see, Taneda doesn't have the confidence to completely affirm who he is or what he does, especially when to get there he has to compare himself to others. And some may scoff at this assertion. How else can you find your own self-worth if you only have your flawed self to observe? Life is about trying on different hats, multiple perspectives, until you build a mosaic of the world that means something to you. The problem with that is, how do you know when you've tried on too many hats? What happens if you lose yourself underneath all the feedback you've been forced to internalize, and you can't find the you were before you took art seriously? What if I became a master songwriter and forgot what songs I wanted to write before I learned hook theory? What if I became a YouTuber and forgot the videos I said I wanted to make when I started my first channel at 12 years old? Nah. Better just to keep the connection pure, untainted from the corruptive gaze of society. They don't deserve my light. They wouldn't understand.
ってばっかだね。種田は好きな音楽で誰かに批判されるのが怖いんだよ。褒められたってけなされたって評価されて初めて価値が出るんじゃ。
Oh, so I'm pussy? It's funny because I was actually having a similar conversation with another YouTube friend of mine who has a much bigger audience than I do. And we were talking about how every artist inside of them kind of have two wolves regarding this subject that they vacillate between constantly for their entire life. Where on one end, there's this dream to be this hermit philosopher creative who spends decades with the same block of marble, just hammering away at it in search of perfection because he's like, I know it exists and I will lick his shaft. But then there's also the idea that I made a thing and I'm kind of an attention whore and I want to be noticed for it. I said in this criminally underrated video that art is a verb, not a noun, or the other way around. But this idea is very sacred to me. The fact that art is a process that doesn't end at creation, it ends at evaluation, it ends at consumption. And if as an artist, you are not excited, at least a little bit, by seeing whether or not the message you wanted to put out in the world, how it impacted people, or whether or not it connected, that's cap. I don't want to say you're not an artist. That's harsh. But my question is then, do you really respect the connection that makes art as a process possible if you never let anyone connect to you? You know? So bet it up. Taneda quits his job without telling MEIKO, of course. And wow, I just love when couples adopt each other's little mannerisms and habits. So kawaii. He says he's going for broke. 1 month, one demo, one last revolt against conformity. Roti to the world. And at this moment at the manga, Taneda was down bad, but now we're so back. I believe everyone should get the chance to make a living doing what they love. This channel, this thing that I'm trying to do with this channel, is the thing that showed me that you don't have to hate work. that the grind hits differently when you actually know what you're grinding for. And I think that fundamentally shifts what you think is possible for your life, and for the lives of others when you're able to exercise autonomy like that. And so the demo CDs were finished up, put into envelopes, and mailed to record labels. The EP, titled Solanin, roll credits, now held the hopes and dreams of the trio, sitting in a pile of paper and waveform. The morning after being arrested by the authorities for some light arson, TANEDA gets a call from Kumagai Records. They want to talk. The label talent scout, a long-limbed and hard-faced Saeki Ryotaro, lets them know that he's listened to the CD that they sent in and that TANEDA, as the lead singer of the group, should consider not. Instead, Roti should consider being the backing band to this new photoshoot idol who the label is trying to push into the music industry. And there's two sides to this conversation that many a content creator or creative lay awake at night thinking about. On one hand, an opportunity like this guarantees a tour, TV appearances, the ability to get contact with industry professionals, etc. As Ryotaro says, chances like this don't come often, and this would be the best step forward in their careers.
お断りします。
Or nah. MEIKO is the one who jumps in and makes the call, but it seems like the whole band would have been in agreement anyway. Later on, TANEDA sees the agent in the bathroom and reveals that he actually recognizes him from his favorite band, Q-Noodles? Q-Noodles? Quota? Kunos. The QBs broke up 5 years ago, a case of right place, wrong time, but TANEDA loved them when he was a teenager, enough to embarrassingly admit that their CDs are one of the reasons he got into music in the first place. TANEDA then proceeds to blow up at him, shaming him for abandoning his dream for the stability of playing businessman. He launches into this tirade, calling out Ryotaro as a sellout and a corporate shell, running away from his potential because the money was more real to him. You can see in TANEDA's panels the frustration and anger he feels at the thought of his hero ending up like his teachers, his parents, like all of his friends, selling his soul to a conforming society. And then, something interesting happens. Instead of acting defensively or belittling TANEDA's outburst, Ryotaro tells TANEDA that
I might seem to be on the losing side to you, but I'm still fighting. Not all battles happen in the brightest, flashiest spots. You'll understand that someday.
It's very reminiscent of Wayman's scene in Everything Everywhere, and something that I've come to fiercely resonate with and preach to my friends these days. All builds are viable. Most people are trying to fight the good fight. And I think everyone goes through this transition at some point when you look back and cringe at how foolish you were to criticize someone you thought was just taking life lying down. No one is. You just can't always see their scars. After that altercation, we start to see TANEDA unravel. I mean, the plan failed. The month passed, no one else called, and that means the band is dead, and so is the dream. And then we see this scene where TANEDA tries to break up with MEIKO, and I think it's the perfect distillation of his mindset. He cites MEIKO's growing reliance on him to grow up, even though she's not more enthusiastic to do so herself. And I think that's valid. MEIKO was the one that quit her job first. MEIKO the one that said, play Guitar Hero or I won't do that thing you like in the butt anymore. Just ultimatums are ultimatums. And then TANEDA is like, bet, nah, you right. I'm tripping, mama. Let's go back to the flat and let me track that back. But before he does that, after all that foreplay, TANEDA says, bet, I'ma see you, and then Danny Phantoms on the whole squad. And now, sports.
Are you ready to shut it down? Are you ready to shut it down? Are you ready? Are you ready? This is not the culmination of anything. This is the beginning. This is the beginning. This is where it starts. It starts here. We march from here. We tell them from here. Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
俺は幸せだ。本当さ。
I think I want to talk about Solanin now. Released in March 31st, 2010, the song was composed by Masafumi Goto and produced by him and his fellow bandmates of Asian Kung Fu Generation. Yes, that Asian Kung Fu Generation. While the lyrics were written by Ino Asano himself. A high point of doing this video and the research that went into it was when my team found out that in the live adaptation of Solanin, there's actually not a credit to Asian Kung Fu Generation because they didn't use their recording for the song. Actually, a cover is credited instead to Roti, the fictional band in the story, with vocals by Ayo Miyazaki, who plays Meiko in the film. And as a pretentious music nerd who just loves when people really play instruments in their films, I tip my fedora to that, or my NPR mug, whatever. Goodbye, that's enough. You can cope anywhere. Goodbye, I'll manage somehow without you. Goodbye, that's what I'll do. This is a breakup song, right? I mean, it has all the pieces. The minor key, the wretched vocals, the lyrics about leaving, the overwhelming scent of angst. As a resident sad boy expert on this side of the screen, that's 100% premium Prince Zuko Find My Honor copium. Clearly he's writing about leaving Meiko, about how much it'll hurt him, about how it'll make him sad, but he realizes within himself that it's for the best, that it's necessary for both of them to grow. And yet, I know what you're thinking. You're still thinking about the yellow light too. Or apparently the Wikipedia, the amber light, the color of caution, of slow down, restraint. In a metaphorical sense, you could say the yellow light is a manifestation of anxiety. If red is you are stopped dead in your tracks, freeze response, then yellow is the signal right before that, the feeling that you should stop, the ego check that clenches your butt cheek. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to like really explain or capture why this shot is so important, but it's the fact that they hold on that yellow light for so long and then go to TANEDA speeding up, as if to say, in the face of anxiety, as he was battling the demons in his head, for once he sped forward instead of being paralyzed by them. And that's different than the end of this trope. It's the difference between getting hit by a truck and running headfirst into traffic. It's the difference between giving up on yourself and giving yourself up to something bigger. It's the difference between a song about rejection and a song about rebirth. And to be honest, maybe it's darker than that too. Maybe as a habitual yellow light runner, I've done the same calculation and I know it's not the same. Maybe as a person who's also done the red light simulation one too many times, you understand that it's similar, but it's not the same. And with all this in mind, I can't believe that Asano would want us to interpret what happened to TANEDA as him making such a black and white decision as to live or to not live. To me, TANEDA didn't kill himself, but he did decide to start fighting back against his negative emotions, his negative thoughts. He was finally opening himself up to the universe, the good and the bad, and accepting it all for what he could do and not for what he should do or what he expected of himself. And I think there's a validity there. In my mind, I fully believe if the yellow light was a little longer, the street was a little less busy, if that truck wasn't speeding down a commercial district, TANEDA would have went home. Back to MEIKO, to the homies, to the job, to the grind, to the joy of trying to figure it out. But there's a guilty allure to randomness. It's borderline religious. I honestly think that's why we say Jesus take the wheel. TANEDA's role in Solanin is different than that of any other characters because TANEDA isn't just a character. TANEDA is a timestamp, an event whose transpiring fundamentally changes the life of everyone in the story in ways they can never go back from. TANEDA is a reminder that the world is random and relentless. She gives and takes indiscriminately. And there's nothing we can do beforehand, really. We're always living in the aftermath of circumstances that are way out of our control.
Memoria! Memoria!
少し時間をください。何か答えが見つかるまでは。
Besides MEIKO, TANEDA's death impacts Billy the most. The death of his best friend, band leader, and character foil, the person who was his avatar of following your ambition instead of conforming to society, predictably sends him for a loop, but he's doing his best to hold it together. And it's going great. For Billy, the TANEDA event leads him to decide what type of man he's gonna be. The first time he sees MEIKO since the accident, she looking like Rock Lee just gave it a drop kick to the dome. However, she only battling psychological demons at the moment, so he does the only thing a cishet man wearing a leather jacket knows how to do in a high-stress situation, and physically assaults her. When I read it, I was like, damn, bro, her nigga just died. That yields few results, obviously, so MEIKO asks to be left alone, so all superstar Billy Graham here can do is offer his support from a distance. At this point, we learn Billy was initially jealous of TANEDA being with MEIKO. It's the first we hear of this, but also kind of tracks with why Billy's dad told him to go bring MEIKO some food. And overall, I think it's a nice wrinkle to add to their already realistic dynamic. The trope of the love triangle ex-band is so prominent in the shoujo seinen genre to border on ubiquity, but this particular triangle isn't the main focus of this particular story, so it comes across more as a sincere moment of self-reflection on Billy's part. Billy even admits he considered trying to steal her away from TANEDA, but now he's gone. And ironically, he can't take shit from him now. TANEDA chose to leave, but Billy is still here and knows that means he must live. If not for himself, then for TANEDA. If not for TANEDA, then for what TANEDA left behind. And so when MEIKO begs him and Kaoto to bring back the band one more time and let her be the lead guitarist, he plays along. He knows MEIKO doesn't have the skills, she hasn't strummed a guitar string once in her life, and who could ever fill TANEDA's shoes? He wasn't just the glue of the group, but gravity itself. He knows he should give up. Why hasn't he given up already? On the band, on MEIKO, on keeping this memory of a bad dream alive. Life is about choices. Maturity. That's when you choose love. Ultimately, Billy internalizes the lesson the old man taught him in chapter 5. Sometimes it's just important to show up. A lot of times that's what being a good friend comes down to. Just being there when someone needs it. And so he plays along, with MEIKO playing guitar, with her trying to learn TANEDA's last song, Solanin, with doing all this in the span of, you guessed it, a month to play in front of a crowd with actual agents there. Listen, be like Billy. Support your friend's delusions. He's also the one who helps MEIKO process her grief in a beautifully rendered scene in chapter 24, where we see him truly at his most vulnerable. It's a gut-wrenching series of panels, MEIKO and Billy sitting on a bridge, and he asks her, "Are you okay now? Without TANEDA?" Billy is a boring guy. He doesn't force an issue, have hot takes, or think about the bad stuff too long. But in this case, he does, because he's thinking about someone else. And that pushes him to open himself up. He releases all the pent-up emotion, rage at the selfishness of Taneda's actions, indignation at the way he left, and a statement that, fuck it, fuck him. He doesn't feel the need to be sad anymore. Not to someone like that. Someone who he can't stop remembering. If the tears would just stop. In the panel after that, Meiko leans her head on his back while they're riding on his motorcycle. They're on the way to their last practice before their first ever gig post-Taneda. She says he's a good guy. And when Billy, or now matured Yamada, responds, I know, I think he really believes it this time. And this is basically the culmination of Billy's arc. He's finally able to answer Meiko's question from before, honestly. Billy ultimately decides that life is a laundry list of complaints, but if there are days like this, where he gets to do what he loves with the people that he loves, those come around every once in a while, and that seems like a regular life to him. And just being able to live life, it's pretty damn good. And this is why I wanted to make the video, to tell you about Solanin, because it's a story about you, about me. This perspective is something that I think saved my life in my mid-20s, and the more I practice it, the less I lived in fear of that hour hand incessantly sulking forward. It's you that's worried about tomorrow because you think life has not happened yet. You think that you're in a quarter-life crisis. You think the switch or guillotine will come at 30. You think that you should have had it figured out by now, and figuring it out should feel like a puzzle piece sliding into the final spot. Or an orgasm. Whichever one works for you. Billy's character path ends in perhaps the most realistic and healthy way. No extreme exaltation of optimism nor a nihilistic resentment, but simply an acceptance of the ambiguity in the path forward. It's been about 2 months since Taneda died. Meiko finally has some kind of job at a flower shop, so I guess things are going somewhat well. Or maybe not. So far, Meiko blames herself for Taneda's death. If she hadn't tried to change things, or even if she hadn't even bothered being Taneda's girlfriend in the first place, maybe he'd still be here today. At some point, Taneda's dad stops by to come pick up his things and talks to Meiko for a while. She apologizes for what happens, blaming herself again for his son's death, but he reassures her that before he died, Taneda decided to stay in Tokyo and be with her. His dad was so impressed by this change and saw it as a moment that his son finally grew up and became a man. And that just adds more to my own theory that Taneda didn't make such a black and white decision, that he really did have somewhat strong intentions of moving through his sadness and trying to actually build a future with Meiko. Before he leaves, he does tell Meiko, if you want to make yourselves useful for once, if you still feel responsible, then what you should do is you should honor his memory, Taneda's. Meiko stands there and wonders, is that my job? Is that my purpose? Meiko then asks Billy and Katao to let her join the band. And understandably, they're like, the fuck, Meiko, this isn't Guitar Hero on the Wii, you don't even play an instrument. But that's not the point. Meiko assures them that she's actually serious about something this time. So they let her join. And when they have their first practice, this happens.
ありがとう。
やっぱ自分のベース取ってくれよかったかな。何テンション上がってんだよ。
We go on to watch Meiko as she struggles to actually study for the first time in her life, just like some of you former gifted kids watching this video in the crowd. You know who you are. That's why you're here. No shame. At some point, she discovers Taneda's diary and finds the lyrics to Solanin. Seeing those words again, she realizes that the song wasn't an end to their relationship, but an end to his former self he was leaving behind. Hearing those words again from Taneda, she regains her resolve and goes back to practicing. The old Meiko gave it 1 second after hearing the word start, if she ever started in the first place. But Kato and Billy can see that this Meiko is different. This Meiko actually has a fire in her eyes and is taking the band seriously. Later, Kato lets them know that they've actually been offered a small gig to perform in about a month, and Billy's worried that MEIKO and the band in general just isn't ready yet. But MEIKO is the one that steps up and insists that she wants to do it. She wants to play Solanin. Later on, as she walks home, MEIKO reflects on how this is completely different than what she normally does. However, instead of fear, there's a glint in her eyes and her heart races with excitement. Instead of running away, she's finally running towards something. So fun fact, I used to be in a K-pop dance group in college. I'm not lying, there's documented evidence, and no, you can't see it. Anyway, I joined in my 4th year after needing a change of pace after ending a toxic friendship. Problem was, I only had like 3 friends and my 2 other friends were in relationships. And since I ain't had no bitches at the time, I needed something new to do and new people to hang out with, or else I would have been alone more than I actually like to admit. Up until that point, I tried multiple times over the years to join a club or a group, but nothing ever really stuck. Normally due to lack of interest, and it always felt awkward hanging out with those people. The vibes were just never there for me. But at the time, I did like K-pop and dancing, and those motherfuckers in the club looked super cool, and I wanted to be like that too. So I was like, okay, let's try this. Note, all of my on-stage performances up to that point were like in band or orchestra in high school or other minor dancing clubs. I've always been very much okay being a very cool background character, not someone made for the center stage. So that means, of course, when I auditioned for my first dance and I got in, I got the part that had a solo. I don't know if at that moment I just really wanted to prove to myself and everyone that I could fit in, or I just really wanted to be Bam Bam from GOT7, but I knew I was going to work my ass off so that I could do this. Every practice I went to, every moment I struggled, every step closer I got to my goal was invigorating in a way that I hadn't felt in a while at that point. This felt like my new beginning, and it was exciting. I hadn't felt alive in a long time. But anyway, enough of being vulnerable. Another new thing in MEIKO's life is that she has a new love interest. It's some young guy at her job, and there's this one scene where they're talking about playing the guitar. Flower Boy gets caught in its feelings and instantly confesses to her, and while dude is clearly her type, dazed, confused, Wonderwall, she turns him down. MEIKO realizes she can't go back to that, not only because TANEDA's gone forever, but also because she wants to grow up and move on with her life. Eventually, you have a slow and somber acceptance of change as you adapt to a new way of life, and moving away from the person you were into the person you want to be. As Octavia Butler once wrote, God has changed. The next day, she takes Flower Boy, and I'm sorry, he's so boring that I cannot remember man's name, and I'm not going to look it up at this point. But they go to play on the streets of Tokyo to get used to playing in front of a crowd. And as she wanders the streets, MEIKO remarks how the city she initially loved for its vastness has now swallowed her whole as she struggles to barely survive. She can't float aimlessly not knowing what to do with her life for much longer. At some point soon, she has to find her way and make a decision of how she wants her life to be. Discouraged, she leaves the city without practicing and without even earning a little side money for her still empty bank account. Somewhere in her neighborhood, she finds a kid. She asks him, "Are you lost?" And he responds, "No, I've always been here. What are you doing here? Are you lost?" She laughs and admits she is a bit lost, and then he notices her guitar and asks her to sing and play him a song. As she plays, she thinks,
He'll just become an adult like that. Whether he accepts it or resists until the end is a big fork in the path of life, I suppose. I'm still full of hesitations, but if I can pull off this gig in 2 weeks, I feel like something in me will change.
When she looks up after managing to play in public after all, she notices there is no boy. Only Aichan is there, and she remarks how good MEIKO has gotten. When MEIKO gets on stage, she's stunned into silence by the bright lights. She's alone, and she remembers TANEDA once stood in the spot and tried to tell her something.
あ、なんでギター始めたの？
高校の時好きなバンドがあってさ、そのバンド真似したくて同じギター買ってさ、毎日アホみたいに弾きまくってたんだよね。そしたらもうすっげえ楽しくてさ、ギター弾いてる時だけはなんか無敵になった気分でさ、音楽を信じてやり続ければこんな俺でも世の中変えられる気がしてさ。
そういうのいいな。私何やってもダメなんだよね。なんか不安。これから先ちゃんとやっていけるのかな。
きっとさ、2人でならどうにかやっていけると思うんだ。手の歯ダメかしら。
絶対話しちゃダメだよ。
寒い冬の冷えた缶コーヒー、虹色の長いマフラー、小走りで路地裏抜けて思い出してみる。例えば幸せがだらっと続いたとする。きっと悪い種が手を出してもうさよならなんだ。
私は今日
Through overcoming her grief at losing Taneda, Meiko found purpose and some idea of what she wants her life to be. She finds peace in knowing that she may not live an above-average life, but she still lives a fine life, and that's cool too. Through all the monotony, she still has her close friends and loved ones, and she gets to cut loose every once in a while. Even though Taneda is gone, he was still by her side guiding her, and together they managed to make it to this end and play Solanin, which is such a banger-ass song.
"たとえいつかこの景色が見られなくなる時が来ても、その時までみんなと一緒にいられればそれでいいや。今日はそう思う."
Hey, new place. For now. I recently moved apartments and I stumbled across my old high school yearbook. I would say this is my dirty little secret, but my mental handicap leaves me prone to oversharing, so it's probably no surprise to you that my quote was a John Green quote that said something to the effect of, "I want to matter." Ever since I could remember having anxieties, I had one around wanting to matter. To me, it was like it would rationalize or make worth it everything I had gone through, and also maybe a sort of presupposition that I was supposed to be important, because why would all this happen to me if it wasn't going to make sense in the end on some hero's journey type shit. Solanin ironically caught me at the end of my unemployment era, but still knee deep in the same existential muck that the characters were wading in and through. I related violently to all of these fictional characters' fuck-ups, to Meiko's aimlessness, to Billy's fear of normalcy, to TANEDA's desire for more time. Even to the forgettability of the flower boy. Like, this book is, at some point, so disgustingly me, which is why it was so alarming that it murdered my dream. Solanin killed my dream of wanting to be the person that mattered to everyone, to be the guy, to be that main character. Solanin killed my dream because it exposed how it wasn't really a dream. It was more of a misplaced obsession, some impossibility to distract me from what the world really is and what I actually could be in it. That in all likelihood, when I die, probably bench into plate no belt GG, it won't be covered on TV or in the newspapers. And I shouldn't regret that, because it's not about me. It's not about just me. It's about me and my sisters, me and my friends who spent the last 3 months dealing with my fuckery in trying to get this video out to you guys. It made me realize that the me that I always keep saying that I'm meant to be, that I'm gonna get at some end of the road after I get another prescription, after I do another course, after I get another certification, that guy doesn't exist. Not without you anyway. Don't forget about us, don't baby, don't baby, don't baby, no. Don't baby, don't forget about us, don't baby, don't. Focus. Solanin doesn't have the answers you're looking for. Its characters don't end up in sunset, nice and tidy transitions. But Asano and the cast that he made me fall in love with does give me, I think, the answer I need. That maybe I already have my answer is in the next day. And I'm only planning out how I'm going to be able to live it out to my fullest.
You did not miss your chance. You missed a chance. There's a difference. Yeah, I said it. You did not miss your chance. You missed a chance. You see, this world has a funny thing of coming back around if it keeps on moving, honey. If you want to eventually come into contact with your purpose, with who you're meant to be, birthing the thing that you've always wanted to come out, you gotta keep going. Even if you've had something come into your life and you let it go, or you crumbled it because you didn't feel like you were worthy, or because of life happening. I don't know your whole story, but what I do know is that you are not only you are life, honey. You are the earth, okay? And if you keep on spinning, and if you keep on going, eventually another chance will come back around. I mean, thank God we got spring to look forward to, because, oh my goodness, winter has been so cold. But we know and we have faith that spring will come, because we know and we have faith that the world continues to move. If you continue to go, a chance will hit you again. I promise you. Keep them vibes high and keep believing in you. And one day you too will have an opportunity come again.
And as always, be kind.